Hello. I'm still technically gone indefinitely as my Mac is still unfortunately knocking on death's door. But I figured even though I am not necessarily able to provide the same edited stuff, I can still talk about the music and it'll be unfortunately just a little bit unedited and sort of resemble the older times of my channel back when I used to just kind of literally go off on my phone. Brockhampton has released a new song, and I figured this would be the best way to sort of quote unquote come back. That return is still technically in the works, but I figured Brockhampton is one of my favorite bands, boy bands, and I wanted to definitely give my thoughts, and I felt it would be weird if I just didn't, so I decided to do it in this phone format. And pretty much what happens here is that we get the first single that'll be off of Ginger, their new full-length project. I guess I want to say the fifth in the entire discography, and it is awesome. It's just really fun to hear all of these verses come together in such a way, and I don't even think there's technically really a hook on here. There's sort of kind of one towards the end with Matt Champion, and towards the middle where Merlin and Kevin kind of pass the baton, so to speak. There's a lot of lyrical highlights on here. Kevin pretty much goes into the same topics that he was sort of talking about, or at least hinting on in his own singular album. And the cool thing about it is it feels like it all fits. This doesn't feel like Iridescence in a way where Iridescence was like, we didn't know what to expect. And Ginger is sort of the same way. We still don't know what to expect, but it's still overall exciting and fun. And I really like the aggressiveness and almost like the dexterity that Kevin displays in his verse, where he kind of, like I said, goes into the same things, but he doesn't get lost in them, and it feels as though even though he's talking about the same stuff, it feels entertaining. And then of course Merlin's highlight that everyone's gonna be definitely talking about is that he said he is so hot that he lets the girl touch his butt. I thought that was funny. I thought that was pretty quirky and totally on brand for Merlin. Dom's verse and Joba's verse both pitch shifted, and it's interesting because if you're not necessarily watching the video, because they did release an accompanying music video to go with this, you won't be able to tell. I think Dom, we've sort of been able to figure out, like when his is pitch shifted, they usually go to a certain height, and then you're like, okay, that's Dom, versus Kevin, where it's like, okay, that's Kevin. Joba's is kind of like all over the place, and this time Joba's one was, pitch shifted, and it sounded fine. And I thought it was really cool how he said he said something about like he's on a cross or nailed, and then he said hammerhead, and I was like, oh, like I've heard a lot of different ways to reference the shark, but I really liked this one. I liked the way that Joba did it. Overall, like my favorite parts were Kevin's verse, Merlin's, I let her touch my butt, Joba's verse. I like Dom's verse, but I wasn't really too sure exactly. There wasn't a point in which I felt like it was particularly striking, but overall the song is really catchy, really enjoyable, and it's a really fun return for a band who had been kind of really super consistent, and we sort of have pretty much been waiting for that next thing after Iridescence. There was sort of this thirst, and it's understandable considering they kind of always sort of tease a new album at the end of every album. In Iridescence, they tease the best years of our lives. Now we have Ginger. So if Ginger is connected, we'll see how that potential narrative connects these four. So overall, awesome song. I really enjoyed it, really excited, found myself dancing around, loved the hooked, loved the verses. Kevin's verse is spectacular. That's probably going to be my favorite out of all of them on the entire thing. But Joba comes to a close second, with Dom and Merlin following. But nothing was bad here, and I am very excited to see what the future holds. I believe the song is called I've Been Born Again. So overall, it looks like they're going to be tackling a potential narrative about how dreams and potential revival, stuff along those lines, stuff with that nature, sort of, the idea of coming back again. And usually when people come back again, typically they kind of experience, at least people living, they experience ego death. The idea that, you know, your ego has to die for you to grow as a person. And sometimes that ego, that egotistical side of you is killed, and so you technically are born again. I don't know if that's what they're going for, or if they're going for the more religious route where it's like where you die, you get born again as something else. Either way, I think that there will be themes sort of relating to this, and I am excited to see what the rest of the future holds for this entire project. So, I think it's a good song, and hopefully soon I will not have to be doing these unedited sashimi thoughts. But for now, I figured this is sort of a nice little compromise for the time being until I get it fixed, my Mac that is, or get a new computer altogether. So if you managed to make it through my unedited, unfiltered sort of thoughts on the newest Brockhampton single, thanks. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for being patient and understanding. I will try to return soon. I've been born again, which means I can eat new foods again. I'm excited. I can't wait to eat all the food in the world.